Started with a good, honest living there as an engineer, and I went deeper and deeper into the dark side, all the way to the end to social. And that chief blogger, by the way, is a self-proclaimed title. You know, I wanted a C-level kind of title. Nobody had it at Emerson. It was mine for the taking, so I grabbed it. Okay, I'm going to get into a little bit, and hopefully it'll stimulate some questions and that kind of thing. And I just want to come at this from why. If you're in B2B and you sell to others, well, why did we do it at Emerson? Why might you consider it? And the first thing, I stole this from my good friends right across the road from us in Round Rock, Dell. You know, most people, you throw out social media, they think Twitter, they think Facebook, they think all that, but you know, that's not what you think. There's a big X by that. Don't think that. It is, as you know, the speakers have been saying here, it's the connections that are formed. It's what these technologies enable. You know, you're connecting people together. And way back, Robert Metcalfes, start of the whole networking era, has his Metcalfes Law that the value of a telecommunications network is proportional to the square of the number of connected users in the system. And it's actually an exponential. As you connect more nodes, you get a lot more connections. And I thought as you go forward into today, that was great for Ethernet when it was founding. But the same notion is kind of true as people that are participating in social media. It's proportional to the square of the number of people that you start connecting to. So as you have people in your organization get out there and whatever these different venues are, and as they meet and interconnect with people, the value of what they're doing for your organization grows as their reach grows. And I thought I'd go through a couple slides of, well, why should our businesses care? You know, if you saw the long laundry list of all these different ways that we can communicate, all these social tools are just something else in there. And I would argue that little search box there is changing the entire world, changing the expectations that our customers have. Used to be they could call somebody in the organization, get back to them in a couple days. That's not good enough today. You know, you can become an expert on something in 5 or 10 minutes of power Google searching in there, and it's resetting all of our expectations. The things you buy, how quick you want to get at an answer. You know, the same is true with our customers, the engineers that are solving problems every day, how fast they want to get an answer. And this is similar to what Larry showed a little earlier, a different survey, and I think it's from 1.5 years or 2 years ago. Social media was on the list of things surveyed, and it's all about how do you get information, or how do you get the information you need to solve problems. And most of it was not so much, not very much. But what stood out in that thing overwhelmingly is search is the place people go to solve information. And it just so happens if you're participating in social media through these various ways, you're basically unburying things that may be expertise that you're sharing on the phone or sharing in email that's buried to the world and lifting it out of there and making accessible to the search and making the information you have to help your customers solve problems easier. And you know, if your organization is large and you happen to have a lot of people between your customer and your subject matter expert, you may want to kind of rethink that a little bit, going back to that whole search is changing expectations. So you know, if you have these long processes and you want your customers to go through your chain of people, it doesn't work that way. And social media is one of the things breaking that down. You're more closely connecting your subject matter experts with your customers. And another reason why should we care, the competition for attention grows fiercer and fiercer every day. There's more marketing noise, there's more digital noise. So what really separates is what Steve said, these relationships that form through some of these social channels are ways that can break free. So, you know, this whole thing, you'll notice some of your traditional tactics that you do in your marketing things are less and less effective these days, and it's all this competition for attention growing. And this was just something, you notice we're marketed to when we fill up gasoline at the pump. I found something, this was several years ago, people even advertising by painting their logos in the sand and the beach. So marketers are trying different ways to do this, and it just means people are tuning this out more and more. Another reason why our businesses should care, the job of engineers in our industries, and I come from the process industries, stuff flowing through pipes, that it's probably one of the most complex things there are. An engineer going into this and trying to control this process has to have an understanding of the chemical processes themselves, the mechanical things, the valves controlling it, the electrical, how it interacts with the control system, the electronics, software, cybersecurity, people trying to come in and take over the plant and do nasty things with it, networks, IT. So the things the engineer needs to know is just growing and growing, and as a result, they need to be connected, and that's why we're seeing things like these LinkedIn groups with 25,000 or something else. People need a peer group of people to connect with to be able to solve problems. You know, and other things, we see it here, North America, Western Europe, in different places around the world. A lot of the expertise is beginning to retire now, part of that baby boomer generation. And there again, so the younger engineers trying to make sense of it and try to do their job need to be able to connect beyond their local peer group. You know, Greg McMillan is a very influential person in the process industries. He's written about 20 or 30 books. He has a blog, he has a number of things. But when he started, there was a large central engineering group. He went to the plant, he had mentoring to help him learn it. The guys coming out today don't have the same structure, and as a result, they need to be able to connect into these peer groups. And I guess the final thing why we should care, you know, what we use to communicate is changing every day. The things, you know, that were around yesterday are not around today. We're rapidly changing. And as a result, the things we do as marketers and the way we need to reach our customers is changing rapidly. And I like some of the questions coming at, well, how do you keep up with all this? And I think a lot of it is you just, as a marketer, have to try things. What sticks to the wall, what doesn't stick, you know. I think some people have a term for a fast fail. If something's not working, abandon it and try something else. But if you sit back and do a 2-year plan on how this is going to work, chances are it's moved right past you. And, you know, I'm not going to dwell on the apps too much other than to say that the most critical one is the people in your organization. And, you know, it's not something that everyone can do. Some people have a natural affinity for some of these applications, and they are connectors. You know, your subject matter experts likely aren't the people that are necessarily there on the front lines, but chances are you do have people in your organization with the skills to communicate, with empathy for people as they're trying to solve problems. And those are the people you got to try to find and put into the roles in your organization to be connectors back into your organization. And, you know, I started with a blog 6 years ago as a pilot to lift the expertise or lift the visibility of the experts around Emerson. And since that time, we're probably up to 10, 12 bloggers now, but it's basically a way to provide a viewpoint and provide interaction back with the writer of the blog. And Twitter, I won't say anything more about it other than it is a great listening tool. If you should have at least somebody in your organization searching on your brand, on other things, because somewhere somebody's probably saying something about it, and it may not be as nice as you would like or something, but if you see somebody talking about it, you have a way to either reinforce, or if it's a problem, connecting them into your organization. And with our mobile devices, it's easier and easier to, if you've got an issue with something, to tell the world rather quickly. So, you know, listening first, and then, you know, there's a lot of other ways to use Twitter, and we can talk about that some more. And YouTube, it isn't for those professional voice of God videos. It's for sharing how-to training, quick demonstration, things an engineer might find valuable if that's your audience. You know, if you start with the premise of what would they find valuable and then see what you have around your organization, then you can do it. And I get this question still. A lot of places, the IT people block it and they say they can't even see our videos. And I like to point to things like the U.S. Chemical Safety Board. So if they have safety as a consideration, you know, their IT people need to let them look at it. And if they can look at that, then they can probably look at some Emerson videos too. And of course, LinkedIn, we all use that, we link together, but these groups are a huge part of it, and it's a way to form a community around your brand or your company or whatever else. And I really like slide shares. I put presentations together, or as we do presentations, I like to put them out in slide share. It is to PowerPoint what YouTube is to videos. So I don't know what you use in your presentations, but I find that pretty valuable there. And we've talked about Facebook a bit, and we have some of our brands, like one of our control systems, Delta V, has a Facebook page and has about 3,000 people in there asking questions and everything. And I find it more of a demographic split where we'll get younger engineers asking questions. You can tell by the language of the questions and what they're using there that they'll be in Facebook, and then we have another group out in LinkedIn. So I think some of that tends to split on demographic lines a little bit. Okay, ways it can help you. You know, the first is this thing about lifting that whole thing about customer expectations getting shorter. You know, you may want to think about, even if it's a single person that's listening on behalf of your organization, what the euphemism I say, get them out to the surface of your organization to listen and to be a connector back into your organization to get people to your subject matter experts. And you know, you can use these tools to build thought leadership. The fact I'm standing here talking about social media as someone that blogged on behalf of Emerson, and just by participating over the years, I figured because I've lasted this long doing it, I must know something about it. But no matter what that area is or what you're doing, by focus and using these channels and the connections that you make to people gives a chance to establish thought leadership. And, you know, one of the things, these communities, building peer-to-peer communities, now, it sounds easy, it's difficult. It takes a lot of energy to get them going. But if you can get them going, like we have one, this is a LinkedIn one around Delta V. Someone had a batch question. Somebody leaps in with something they have to say. Someone else pipes in with a short answer. Someone else puts something in there. Another person contributes. Some guy writes the book on what the answer is. I guarantee none of our technical documentation, none of our white papers, none of our product data sheets had this level of detail. And this was all put together. There wasn't an Emerson person in this conversation anywhere. It's now all indexed in Google and in there. So that's the power of communities. It's customers solving problems with other customers, and it's all getting indexed and documented for the next guy that comes along with a similar problem. So there's a lot of value in investing that energy to build these peer-to-peer communities. And you know, whether it's inside your firewall or externally through blogs and these online communities, this expertise that's retiring, you got to figure out how to lift it out of that email sent item folder and inbox. You know, your lawyers come along and strip it away every year just so for lawsuits and other things. And you know, you need to look for these different things inside the firewall, more of these collaboration tools externally through these communities and getting your organization participating, because you want to make that findable. And, you know, I like to say you want to have enough money if you've got someone that's a natural geek and loves to play with things to make sure they have the latest and greatest and are playing with it and what can you do with it and everything like that, because it's a lot of times through those ideas come up for that new angle, that new app, something else that your customers may find incredibly valuable. And all this doesn't come for free. There's all kinds of issues, copyright, trade secrets, the whole list of things. So if you don't have a social media policy, I say steal one. And no, I'm kidding, because this is probably taped and IBM's watching. Go to this publicly available one where it's ibm.com. I got the URL. You'll have the presentation there. And look at theirs. It wasn't written by their lawyers. It was actually written by their community, and it was very much in the spirit of, we're IBM, we have a lot of expertise, we need to share that with the world, and we've got to be careful for these things right there. So go ahead, cut and paste that, put your company name instead of IBM, you got a good social policy there. Okay. And some of the things it's done for us, because I have this blog, I'm participating in these different communities. I get emails every day. Sometimes they don't know the right support organization in Emerson to get to. Sometimes there's something like, I have a large floating liquefied natural gas project, and I didn't realize you guys were experts. If it's not too much trouble, would you like to come talk to us about it? We're early in the project. So, from a simple blog post or something, it can lead to a multi-million-dollar total automation type of project. And, part of it is just by telling stories, people don't realize you have the capability to do it by making it more accessible than it is through your sales guys one-on-one talking with customers. That's the power of what social media can do. And I think the people in your organization that participate, if they're interacting, saying thank you when good things are said, responding quickly, connecting people in there, it's what Steve had talked about of getting people talking to other people about how good your organization is because you've got somebody connecting them to the right person. So don't underestimate that power, which generates positive word of mouth, which is the best form of marketing we have, because they don't trust marketing people as much as they trust their buddies. And, as the people in your organization participate here, you begin to connect with the people in the industry that are the influential people and start to build that process of thought leadership, so that connections that naturally form through that. And within this room, we have a lot of industry experts in there. So it's another positive thing as you have people that are participating in there. And, I've had the opportunity to write different articles, even a column for Valve magazine, who now the Valve guys are out there. They're social media mavens, and, stand back, just watch them in action. But those kind of opportunities just kind of happen for the people that are out there that are participating. So I'm out there at the surface. I'm not encouraging your entire organization to jump out there, but you may have a person or two in the organization that may want to be involved in it a little more than they are today, because I think the benefit of whether you're connecting people into your organization better and forming sales opportunities, or increasing your thought leadership in there, or building loyalty and getting your customers to talk about you more through these peer-to-peer communities, there's a tremendous opportunity there for you. And I'll close before I open it to questions. I'm very much out there, and I'd love to connect with you if you have any questions via email, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever else. You can find me that way. Are there questions? I think the main one, what is overlooked is listening first. Start with listening. If you're an organization and you're not really doing anything in the different ways. You know, and that's the process that you begin to understand what are the conversations. So it could be joining existing LinkedIn groups that, you know, I tend to find, you know, there's LinkedIn groups about valves, safety instrumented systems, you name it, whatever the discipline is, just see what's out there. And, you know, from that standpoint, then you might see there's an angle of what's not being talked about that you have a way to fill, either through a blog or through some of the other social channels.
Last question.
What would be, what's the percentage of time that you spend on creating content versus responding to other people's content? When does that change over a period of time?
So the breakdown of content versus listening versus, in my role, it's probably 20, maybe 30% of my time creating content, 30% of my time listening to all the different things, the different channels and everything else, and then 40% of my time going around our different business units and world areas, making sure people understand the policies, making sure, you know, that we're doing things in a coordinated fashion.